Hey there everybody, and how are you guys doing today? My name is Joe Marin, and in this video here today with Mobile Cuppa Joe, I've got my very full review of the Verizon Motorola DROID Turbo. Now here in the United States, the Motorola DROID Turbo is still an exclusive on Verizon Wireless, and if you look on paper, this is the most heavily spec'd smartphone we've seen so far in 2014, and is definitely the standout flagship for Verizon. So this holiday season, if you're looking for a new smartphone for yourself or for a friend or family member, is the DROID Turbo worth checking out? We're going to find out all that and more here in my full review. But before we go any further, please go ahead and grab that coffee cup, fill it up, bring it over, and sit on down. Take a swig from your mobile cup of Joe. Although it may not be the lightest or the thinnest smartphone available on the market, there is no denying that the DROID Turbo is an incredibly attractive smartphone. The phone comes in 3 different styles. One of them is a black ballistic nylon, while the other 2 are DuPont Kevlar backs, one being a red and a black model. Now I have the black one here, and the DuPont Kevlar feels really nice on the phone. It's got a very grippy, rubbery texture to it, and I never felt like I was going to drop the phone because it tends to kind of grip to your hand when you are holding it. Now on the front of the device we have a 5.2-inch Quad HD display. Going above that is our 2-megapixel front-facing camera, and above that we have some front-firing speaker grills. Now these are not up to the quality of something like HTC's Boom Sound, but there is no denying these sound far better than a side-firing or a rear-firing speaker you're going to find on most other smartphones. Going below the screen, we have 3 capacitive touch buttons, nothing exciting going on here. One neat thing though is that with Android phones in the past, usually if you want to swipe up from the bottom of the screen to access Google Now, you had to have on-screen buttons on the phone. Well, despite the DROID Turbo having capacitive buttons, you can still swipe up from the bottom to access Google Now, which is kind of a nice inclusion on the phone since we normally don't see that in other Android smartphones. Going on to the back, we have our rear camera. This is a 21-megapixel sensor flanked by dual LED flashes, and below that we have a Motorola logo. No dimple here like we saw on the Moto X, but it is still nice to have kind of a place to rest your finger when you are holding the phone. And going below that is our Verizon branding and DROID branding. On the right hand side of the phone we have our power/lock button along with a volume rocker. Up top is our 3.5mm headset jack, and on the bottom is a micro USB syncing/charging port. So overall, I personally really do like the design of the Motorola DROID Turbo. It's not going to be for everyone because it still kind of retains that an industrial feel and look that past DROID smartphones have had, but I really did enjoy it. It feels elegant in the hand, feels incredibly sturdy, and if you're someone that's a bit rough with your phone, you can rest assured that this is a very comparable smartphone and really durable for taking around with you, throwing in a car or your purse. Really is a very nicely constructed phone, and it's probably one of the better designed phones I've had the pleasure of using so far this year. On the 5.2-inch screen we're getting a resolution that comes in at 2560 by 1440, and it brings in 565 pixels per inch. Now if I was using the phone head on without anything to compare it to, I really could notice a difference between that and a normal 1920 by 1080p Full HD panel. However, if I did put the DROID Turbo next to my OnePlus One with a 1080p display, I was able to discern and notice a difference in resolution, seeing that the DROID Turbo did have a bit higher quality. And this is something that, yes, if you have a 1080p and a 2K panel side by side, you can pick out some distinguishing factors here and there. But if you just have it head on, nothing to compare it to, it really is hard to notice the difference between this and a 1080p display. But with that said, the display overall does look really nice. This is a Super AMOLED panel, so the whites in here tend to look a bit more yellow than I would prefer, but outdoor visibility, no problems there at all, and viewing angles were superb also. And with 565 pixels per inch, everything on the phone just looks really nice. So the display in here is definitely one of the high points. Not all applications and icons for the apps have been updated to support 2K resolutions yet, but as those updates do trickle out to support these higher screen resolutions, you will notice your phone looking even more beautiful as those updates do kick out. In regards to its processing speeds and performance, there is no doubt in the world that the Motorola DROID Turbo has some of the highest specifications we've ever seen in a smartphone. We're looking at the Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 chip, that's a quad-core processor clocked at 2.7 GHz, the Adreno 420 GPU, and 3 GB of RAM. And essentially what this translates to is that no matter what you throw at the DROID Turbo, it'll be able to handle it and then some. Every game I ran on here, no matter how graphically intense it was, all the multitasking I could throw at it, and pretty much everything you do on the Motorola DROID Turbo feels freaking fast. And that is really nice, especially on a big high-end flagship like this, which is really the biggest smartphone to hit Verizon and the biggest exclusive for Verizon in quite some time. Having a phone that's this powerful is incredible. Now if you're putting this side by side to something with a Snapdragon 800 or an 801, it's going to be harder to, I know, really pick out the differences, but just here and there, normal day-to-day use, just the overall speed and performance of the phone, it is going to be hard to go back to something with a Snapdragon 801 or an 800, just because the 805 is such a powerful chip. And also the 805 is optimized to handle 2K displays in resolutions higher than 1080p, so having the combination of a quad HD panel with the Snapdragon 805 makes for a very smooth experience, even though you're running and pushing a lot of pixels on that display. So running that 2K display, multitasking like a boss, gaming on it like there's no tomorrow, the DROID Turbo is probably one of the fastest phones I have ever used. Motorola has never been a company very well known for strong performing cameras on their smartphones. Thankfully, the Motorola DROID Turbo is an exception to that rule. On the back, you're looking at a 21 megapixel rear-facing camera with dual LED flashes, along with a 2 megapixel camera up front. Now in regards to the 2 megapixel front-facing camera, it's pretty good for your selfie here or there. I do wish that the lens was a bit more of a wide-angle lens because you cannot fit that much into the frame, but it does get the job done for what it's meant to do. Now for that rear-facing camera, it can take some very beautiful pictures. Now by default, when you go into the camera app, it'll default to 15.5 megapixel images for that 16:9 aspect ratio, but you can easily go ahead and change it to 21 megapixels for your full resolution, but it will change it to a 4:3 aspect ratio. But that's neither here nor there because the photos you take with the DROID Turbo, for the most part, turn out looking very, very nice. Detail, especially in the 21 megapixel setting, looks fantastic. Low light performance is actually pretty solid too, especially on cloudy days. I was still able to take some pretty looking shots with the DROID Turbo. And in general, this is just a very nice camera. It's one of those cameras on the smartphone where you don't have to adjust any settings with it. You can just kind of whip it out of your pocket, shake your hand twice with the turbo to activate the camera, and you're good to go to take beautiful looking pictures whenever you want. And I really don't have anything to complain about the phone. The dual LED flashes work very nice for lighting up a situation, and really this is just an awesome camera, and it's nice to see Motorola start to have and finally have a good camera on their smartphone when the company has never really been known to have that. So if you are someone who is a shutterbug, you love taking pictures, this is definitely going to increase the popularity of your Instagram feed if you get the DROID Turbo. When a phone ships with a 3,900 mAh battery unit, you should expect nothing less than greatness out of the phone in regards to its battery performance and stamina. I was certainly expecting that out of the DROID Turbo, but came away a bit disappointed. Now don't get me wrong, the phone has very strong battery performance, but it's nothing I would necessarily call turbo or amazing. When one day of full usage with the phone, I was only able to get a little over 13 hours of total usage time, with 17% remaining at the end of the day, and this included just 4 hours and 3 minutes of screen on time, and some pretty heavy to moderate usage of streaming HD video, listening to radio and iHeartRadio, playing some games like Riptide GP2, and constantly checking Facebook, Google+, and Twitter, pretty much constantly throughout the day. And while this is not bad battery life by any means, it's certainly not the best either. And when Verizon is marketing this phone to get 48 hours of full usage, that's really not that great of a marketing tactic if your phone is getting barely through a day of moderate usage and you're claiming it can get through 2 full days. Out of the box, the Motorola DROID Turbo is running Android version 4.4.4 KitKat, which is the latest build of KitKat that has been released. No Lollipop as of yet here in the Turbo, but hopefully we should be seeing an update very soon. Now in regards to the actual software that's here day one out of the box for the Turbo, it is a very reminiscent feeling to that of stock Android. The launcher used on here is actually Launcher 3. It is not the Google Now launcher, but it looks identical to it. And what's great about that is that there is no skin really present at all by Motorola. This is about as stock of Android as you're going to get, and for someone that's a big advocate for that feeling of vanilla Android, it is really nice to get a phone, especially a flagship product from a big OEM that hasn't been skinned to death, and because you do have a very stock version of Android on here, it runs even smoother than it would if there was a custom skin on here such as TouchWiz or LG's Optimus UI. Now in regards to that, some of the additional software features that Motorola has included are actually very useful. All the software additions that were found in the Moto X from 2013 have now been bundled into the brand new Moto app, which was first introduced on the Moto X earlier this year. Now in the Moto app you still have touchless control, but you can now actually update and use your own hotkey for it, so you no longer have to say OK Google now. You can customize that into anything you want, which is actually very awesome, so you can get really nerdy with it. You can call your phone whatever you want, so it's a very nice addition here to the Droid Turbo. Along with that, active display does make a return, and aside from being able to pick up the phone when a notification arrives and having the screen power on, giving you a quick preview of said notification, you can now actually wave your hand over the top of the phone and active display will pop up. Now along with this, you still have Motorola Assist, which does things such as reading your text messages out loud to you while you're driving, silencing your phone while you're sleeping at night. So overall, the software features on here feel much more matured than they did on the Moto X from 2013, and in general having a stock build of Android with some very useful software features thrown in there makes for probably one of the better software experiences you're going to find on an Android handset. And when the Motorola DROID Turbo does get upgraded to Lollipop, having the wonderful world of material design and the better battery performance with that, and those awesome Motorola software features, you're going to be probably looking at one of the best smartphone packages in regards to Android software when the update does roll around. So guys, if you are looking to get a new smartphone on Verizon Wireless, either for yourself or for someone you know this holiday season, the Motorola DROID Turbo is without a doubt one of the best options you have right now. Now the 3,900 mAh battery and the turbocharging, although those aren't up to the standards and the qualities and the claims that Verizon and Motorola were making for the phone, don't get me wrong, the battery life on here is still some of the best you're going to find on a smartphone so far we've seen in 2014. And on top of that, you've got that beautiful 21 megapixel camera which takes gorgeous photos, that awesome Quad HD display on the 5.2-inch size, which is still pretty big for consuming media, but is also very manageable in one hand, and then specs to spare with a Snapdragon 805 and 3 gigs of RAM, so you're perfectly fine here with the Motorola DROID Turbo. I would highly recommend this thing. This is probably the best smartphone you can currently pick up, or one of the best on Verizon Wireless, so be sure to check it out, friend or family member. I think you're really going to love it. So guys, thank you so much for watching my full review of the Motorola DROID Turbo. If you have any further questions about the phone, please let me know what they are down in those comments below. Please make sure to like the video if you did like it, and go ahead and click that subscribe button to make sure you never miss a new episode when we do kick them out. Go ahead and circle me on Google+, where I am Joe Marin, and also circle the channel on there as well. There will be links to that at the outro for this video and in the description as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye. So you can probably couldn't tell in the video, but if this wants to go down, through the last part of the outro, I had a cat sitting on my lap. So that was kind of an interesting experience right there. Go and do an outro for a video, and then little Pipsy goes and sits on my lap, don't you? Yes, you do. Oh, you are such a spoiled cat. So that's what I got to deal with when I'm making videos. You had spontaneous cats walking around the table, and this thing right here. So that's a blast.